Minute 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
Everybody, you did one hell of a job. And only thing else I can say is, how about this, Cowboys? Yeah!
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
How about them Cowboys?
Liftoff.
Indeed.
We have
The
a
Dallas
liftoff.
Huh? You didn't know I had production value.
Holy jeez, what was that all about? Okay, we're at NASA counting down a moon launch.
Yeah.
And then we got some Jimmy Johnson. How about those Cowboys? Yeah. And then you got like the nice kind of new graphics thing, man.
Yeah, I got people.
Jeez, I'd say.
Yeah. Shout out to the people. Welcome to Plug and Play. I'm Jeff Kavanaugh. That's Bryan Broaddus from 105.3 The Fan. Former NFL scout, current radio badass, and still godfather of the DFW scouting community, if not more than the DFW scouting community. Good evening, Bryan. How are you, buddy?
Doing well, Jeffrey. Thanks. I'm sorry I missed you last week. Had to do, Bennett was spring breaking, my son, so I had to kind of take care of him. And I know you and Dane had a great show, and so I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you, man. We're getting close. You know, we're starting to have these pro days are going to wind down. We're going to start to hear about 30 visits and things like that. So it's on the doorstep, as they would say.
So that the pro days will give us a couple of easy talking points for this evening's Plug and Play. But first, whether we like it or not, you know, we'll talk about every team, every draft, any prospect people want to know about. But honestly, the majority of the people watching and listening are probably Cowboy fans.
Yeah.
So let's jump this thing off with the names that we know that they are at least somewhat interested in, because between you and Bobby Belt, we're starting to get names of before every draft, you get to have 30 guys that come visit your facility, and you interview them out there. They meet the coaches. You spend a day with them. And we're starting to get some names. So hook us up.
Yeah, you know, and the 30 visits, and if you're a Cowboy fan, this is the opportunity that Jerry and Steven get to really visit with these players, because you don't have a traditional general manager here. I know this is no news to everybody there that's watching, but you don't have a general manager that when you go to the combine, he's usually meeting with agents or other owners, or, you know, he's usually doing some other business. And, you know, Will McClay and the scouts handle the interviews and stuff over at the Holiday Inn. So these 30 visits are a way for Steven and Jerry to put face with name and be able to, when they're watching the tape, oh, this is this kid, and they have an opportunity to kind of interact. So these 30 visits, we've always chased this. If you have an idea who the 30 visits are for the Cowboys, you can kind of get an idea who they might draft. So some of the names from the Ohio State Pro Day today, Chris Olave, the wide receiver, said he has a visit scheduled with the Cowboys. Yesterday at Texas A&M Pro Day, Green, the guard, said that he has a visit with the Cowboys on a 30 visit. Lyle, the defensive tackle from Texas A&M, also with a 30 visit. And then Burks, the wide receiver from Arkansas, with a 30 visit. So Dallas will continue to have the 30 visits. They'll take advantage of Dallas Day, too, is another thing that you might hear Jeff, Dane, and I talking about, where they actually can bring guys in to work out. And so there might be some guys that have local ties from around the country. You have a rule where you can, if you're from this area, you can have guys in for a workout. And the Cowboys do a tremendous job, Chris Hall and those guys, with Dallas Day, of getting guys, maybe getting a next extra 6 to 8 to 10 extra visits of high-ranked players to supplement. So instead of 30 visits, maybe the Cowboys have 40 visits. So it's a really good a way of taking advantage of some things. But again, it's a way for Jerry and Steven to kind of put a face with a name with the tape they're watching and the tags they're putting on the board.
Well, with the Cowboys, I feel like their Dallas Day, their local day, is kind of a cheat code, just because of how many programs around DFW are so good. And if you went to high school here, you qualify. And if you went to a local college, which you get some of that too, you qualify. So it's kind of like a cheat code for them. So that's 2 wide receivers, an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman, which shouldn't be all that surprising, I wouldn't think. The only one on that list that I'm not surprised they would want to visit with him because he's an intriguing prospect, but DeMarvin Leal at Texas A&M. If you added him, I would just be interested. Like, how does that fit? Is that going to bump Tristan Hill off the roster, which I guess doesn't matter? But he's just an interesting dude for a guy that I thought was going to be more athletic and explosive, and I thought was going to have better tape. I struggle with DeMarvin Leal, but those other guys, Olave, Burks, Kenyon Green, you're looking at 3 targets at 24, no doubt about it.
Yeah, Jeff, you're absolutely right. I think the thing about it is the Leal thing. I think they're using a 30 visit here to determine really what this kid makes him tick. I think we've all watched this tape of Leal play, and he's been a guy that there's some really good plays and there's some plays where he clearly disappears. You bring him in, see how he interacts with the other players, see how he interacts with the coaches. He might be a guy that just totally turns everybody off, but you bring him into a room, you sit down with him and you watch some of his good plays. And then you sit down and watch some of his bad plays and you ask him, well, okay, why are you not hustling here? Or why are you letting this guy from Missouri block you? Or why are you letting this guy, who's clearly not as good as you handle you today? And I think that's the thing that they want to know about this kid. I think with him, it's a little bit more of a deeper dive because there are a lot of questions about him as a player. And like I say, some really good tape and some not so good tape.
All right. Shout out to our friends in the super chats. We got Mazith in here who just says, Broaddus. The Traveling Man podcast. Love y'all foos. And Joseph, do you think all these teams needing wide receivers at the end of the first means the Cowboys will need to take their guy at number 24? It depends on what your definition of your guy is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about the top group of 5 or 6 guys, absolutely. But I think for me, and I think probably for you, Bryan, I can stretch this thing out to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 names if you're talking about using one of your first 2 picks, and 14 names if you're talking about using one of your first 3 picks.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about Chris Olave and Treylon Burks, you're picking them at 24 if you even have the opportunity to pick them at 24.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this though, and I have Burks and Olave's tags just touching there in the first. So to me, I really am a fan of both of those players. And there's some, we kind of felt like the first wide receiver, if we really break this thing down, the first wide receiver might have been taken with the Jets at 10, and then kind of things work from there. And, I'm not so sure that Chris Olave is going to be there for the Cowboys at 24. I think that there's a chance with Burks. We'll see what happens with Jamison Williams. I mean, Jeff, I know you and I are
Drake
doing the
London.
draft.
I think the USC
Drake
guy
London. That's
gone.
what I'm saying. See, there's people that talk about that maybe Drake London might be the first wide receiver taken, and I mean, that's kind of where this thing is with these wide receivers. I don't think there's an order that Jeff would give you his 5. I would give you my 5. Dane Brugler would give him his 5. We would have those things kind of maybe in a lot different order here. But there's some teams, as you mentioned, or our fans, listeners, they mentioned that maybe you'll have to take your guy. And I don't know. I know from Green Bay, from the history of the Green Bay Packers, they have not drafted a first-round receiver since 2002.
They're about to.
Yeah, so they're really big on that, and that's something that the Packers have always believed. But they've got 2 picks at the back end of the first round, so maybe they will take that guy, that first round guy, like we were talking about in the back end. Kansas City's a team. I'll say this, and Jeff, you've been cheerleading this player the whole time, and you talk about a guy like Sky Moore. Does Sky Moore replace what Kansas City just lost? I know what Hill is. I get it. But Sky Moore, kind of a similar player to that. Kansas City with 2 picks on the back end of that. Do they go ahead and say, you know what? We're not going to get Sky Moore coming back around. we're going to have to maybe take a Sky Moore right now if they're looking to replace the guy that they just lost in Kansas City.
Yeah, and it's not like anybody's going to replace the most dangerous receiver in
No,
football, but
no.
I do think when we're looking at the wide receivers that Green Bay and Kansas City are prime teams that at the end of the first round, if you're a fantasy football player, if one of those teams picks a receiver, that dude is about to get the ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's Sky Moore or Jamison Williams makes it down there or whoever it might be, if Aaron Rodgers gets Chris Olave, you're going to want to buy some Chris Olave stock.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bobby says in the super chat, Bobby McKay, thank you. He says, I feel the pick at 24 will be O-line or wide receiver. It'll come down to which player they feel the best about based on who's available. Do both of you feel the same way? Those are my betting favorites, but I would throw in the caveat that like they didn't pick Micah Parsons because they needed a linebacker, and they didn't pick CeeDee Lamb because they needed a wide receiver. If something wonky happens, they can go anywhere. If Derek Stingley is available, they can take a corner. If Trevor Penning or Charles Cross is available, they can take a tackle. So I think they could go anywhere. But if I were a betting man, which sometimes I am, use the promo code Jeff C at Underdog Fantasy for a sign-up bonus.
Oh, there you
go. If I were a betting man, I would put my money down on they would love their first pick to be a left guard. They would really like that. Kenyon Green, whose pro day they were just at. But I think O-line and wide receiver are the two front runners, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And to me that, I'll be interested to see how the 30 visits go. And I think, like you say, when we get the names and, what names of those wide receivers, what name of the offensive lineman, how many is Green the only guard they have on there? Is Zion Johnson a 30 visit guy too? I think that will tell us a lot. Joe Philbin, it's easy for him to get down in a 3-hour drive to Texas A&M, but is Joe Philbin going to be in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts there for watch Boston College's workouts and stuff that? Or do they see, that's what I'm going to be very, very interested, because I do feel like the Cowboys could go anyway. And I think you say something that was really interesting, Jeff. When you talk about a guy like Derek Stingley and stuff like that, is there going to be somebody that slides down that board that we didn't think was going to slide? And Stingley is a prime guy. I don't personally know how you could pass a guy like that if he got to 24. I really don't. And I'm not saying because he's an LSU guy, but here's guy one of the best two corners in the draft. Maybe one of the top, when you look at maybe one of the top 10 players in the draft, overall. And, that would get my attention if I was a Cowboys. Like, okay, I know what's the deal with this player. I've studied this player. I know the history. I got to make this pick. And, do you go away and say, yeah, we're going to take the best player? Then when you come back around, is it the offensive lineman? Is it the guard? Is it one of those wide receivers that we talked about, the way this thing stretches? I think there's some fascinating options there for the Cowboys at 24 if one of those players comes sliding through the middle of that board.
All right. Thank you to Dylan Schmidt, who sent in two different super chats. First one is Bo. Second one is Melton, who I still haven't seen. And so I'm going to write his name down. Brian, are you familiar with Bo Melton?
Yeah, I've got to get to him as well. And I apologize for that, not being prepared on that one. But yeah, we're trying to bang through as many of these guys as I can. And maybe next week we can have a full Bo Melton report.
I am over 100 now. Manuel also wants to know about a guy I haven't seen, Pierre Strong Jr. Thanks. I'm sorry. I hate myself for disappointing you, but I'll put him on the list now because you've super chatted, and I'll have him done by next week. I promise. Heard any interest in JC Treader? Free agency question. Sorry, from Mike Hoff. I have not.
Yeah, see, the thing about with Treader, and this is where you got to be maybe a little bit of a detective. Treader is the president of the NFL Players Association. And sometimes you might not want that guy in your locker room. And I mean that as a guy in the locker room that might stir things up. And
snitch?
Well, I don't know if it's a snitch, but like, okay, well, coaches say we do this, front office say we do this. Treader says, no, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. And so maybe a guy that you don't want maybe that strong of a voice in your locker room, maybe influencing your players. And I've talked to teams that thought that maybe Treader is an excellent player, but they've also talked about him as Treader does a really good job as the president of the Players Association. And is that his number one job, or is his number one job to play center for you? There's some people that have questions about both.
So your coaches and front office guys are like, hey, let's not bring him in. He knows his rights too well.
That's what I'm saying. Then all of a sudden the locker room then becomes, well,
empowered.
why are we practicing, or why are we doing why? And then, things that normally just kind of go and the schedule goes, well, you've got the president of the Players Association saying, guys, we don't have to do this. We don't have to do that.
King Shadow said if someone like Jamison Williams falls to you at 24, to hell with O-line or linebacker. He was wide receiver 1 before the ACL. All these guys were wide receiver 1 before they got hurt. Drake London was wide receiver number 1 before he broke his foot or whatever.
Yeah.
Jamison Williams might have been wide receiver 1 before he got hurt.
Yeah.
John Mechie might have been a first-round pick before he blew his knee out.
Right.
There's so many options. I don't think Jamison Williams would have been my wide receiver 1 regardless, but his status of I'll take him at 24 doesn't change. Listen, ACLs are stub toes. This is 2022. I don't give half a crap about a torn ACL. You let him and Gallup go rehab together, and everybody will have a great time. The wordologist, do you think the Cowboys are done in free agency? What do you think about adding DT Hicks or DN Flowers, or are we done at edge? So our buddy Dave Hellman is of the opinion that now that Zadarius Smith is off the board, just remember that Micah Parsons is going to play a good amount of edge, and don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with that if what you say is, all right, it's Tank Lawrence and I would say Dorrance Armstrong are your starters, but when you're rushing the passer, it's Tank Lawrence and Micah Parsons. And Dante Fowler's hanging around, and Chauncey Golston's hanging around, and I always forget one. Basham's hanging around.
Yeah.
You got guys. Can you count Parsons so much that you're like, it's okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, I would have felt a lot worse if Dorrance Armstrong hadn't shown up and played as well as he did last year. I really, the Cowboys took a gut punch. They thought they had Randy Gregory done. They just thought they had him done, and it didn't work out. But Armstrong played well enough to where I'm thinking like, okay, Armstrong, and then you look at Golston and guys like that. I just also remember last year when we weren't thinking very much of Curse. I wasn't thinking anything all of Curse, to be honest with you. I'm thinking, well, here's another safety they signed. He's probably a special teams guy. That's all he's going to do. But then, George Edwards brings him in. Dan Quinn brings in the guys he brings in. And now they bring in a guy like Fowler. And I'm thinking, could Fowler get you 6 or 7 sacks just like Randy Gregory did? And maybe under Dan Quinn, maybe it's about playing for him. And I know that Fowler didn't played really 1 year pretty well with Dan, but maybe it's that magical thing for 1 year. But still, I'm still looking. And maybe the defensive ends are not out of the question because this draft is pretty deep with those defensive ends. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if we see the Cowboys at that second round pick take a defensive end. I really wouldn't.
I saw some more today. Who's the guy I watched today? Because somebody tweeted a question about him. It was Sam Williams at Ole Miss. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
See, that's the thing. But see, Sam Williams, from what I heard, has got some off the field things that he had.
He had an aggravated sexual battery accusation.
Yeah.
That when the charges were dropped is when he was reinstated to the football team. And that's always cloudy because I hate to
That's
be
always
somebody who's
cloudy.
like,
You're right.
I don't want to be dismissive of any accusation and just be like, no, not guilty. Let's football. Woo.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you were accused of something and all I know about it is that charges were dropped and then you went and played college football, you're pretty good on tape. I don't know.
I like Sam Williams. I really do. I mean, we were doing the draft show yesterday, and then Dave and them brought him up. I'm like, hey, have you guys seen Sam Williams? And I was like, yeah, I like him. And both Kyle and Dave kind of go, well, man, he's got these things about him. I'm like, oh, okay. And that's sometimes that's the problem that we have as media scouts is we watch what we see, the tape and things like that, put them where we have them. And then like the draft goes along and for 2 days, they never get picked. And then you feel damn stupid that you didn't know that he had a toe that can't get fixed, or he's got some charges against him that need to be taken care of. So, I mean, we were talking about there's a player at Georgia, right? Anderson, that's got
Anderson. He's a really good football player,
really good player. But man, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to draft him. You know, I mean, he's got a lot of things. But you know, if you'd never known any of that, you would have evaluated him and put him on the board.
It's weird because I'm not a judge or juror, so it's like it's not my job to do. But at the same time, like, is there an element of when Deshaun Watson gets traded and the team who signed him intentionally makes sure that his base salary is super low so that even if he's suspended, it won't cost him any money? Like, is there an element of shadiness and that feels gross? Yeah, absolutely. That Tyreek Hill, when he gets traded, we just talk about Tyreek Hill in football. It's like, well, yeah, also you could talk about it, but it's like, I don't know what to do with it. And for how long do you hold things against somebody if they're not in legal trouble for it? And it's weird. I'd rather cheer for all good people, but that's just not the way it's going to be because somebody's going to pick and trade for and play these guys.
Yeah.
Vance, can you recall a prospect where their athletic testing was more accurate than the film you saw on them? Not really.
See, the thing about it is, I'll give you a guy that's the opposite of that. It happened yesterday at Texas A&M.
Yeah, he just went to being undrafted.
The Weidermeyer. And I don't know, man.
Did you like his tape?
I loved his tape.
And he runs a 5.0440. Like,
I know.
That's not an NFL athlete.
I know. And you're watching him catch passes against Alabama. You're watching him catch passes against Auburn. You're watching him catch passes against LSU. I mean, LSU wasn't great last year, but I'm just saying, man, this is going to be one of those that's going to test your resolve as a scout because everything he does athletically, it's almost the same to me as what I see when I watch Lindenbaum play at Iowa. When I see a guy that's short-armed, undersized, and not very tall get blocks.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking every deficiency he has, I shouldn't draft this player. You know?
Jordan Davis would smoke him in a foot race.
Yeah. You know, and that's the thing about it though. I wonder, and I've got to ask around. Because, you know, there's people that say the guy's not going to get drafted, but I don't know how you sit there and watch this tape and watch him make play after play after play, catching the ball at Texas A&M. And athletically, yes, it's a mess. I'll give you another guy, Jeff. Remember how bad Orlando Brown was at Oklahoma when we were watching that?
Yeah, he had he probably had the worst combine of all time.
He had the worst combine in the history of combines. You went to the pro day at Oklahoma. It wasn't much better. It's like, he's like, damn it, I don't care. You know, you can take me or not. I don't care. You know, and then now he plays and you're going, well, that was stupid of me to believe he wasn't a very good athlete. So I think there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of tight ends. There's a lot of tight ends in this draft. You know, Weidermeyer was a guy that Dane Burke, you look at Dane's initial top 50, Weidermeyer was in his initial top 50. So that's watching tape. That's what that is. That's not about a workout right there.
Yeah, and sometimes the numbers will really surprise you like that, where you're thinking a guy's going to run he's a tight end, he's going to run a 4.7. And there's sometimes that a number will just smack you in the face, like Tease Tabor's 40 time did when he was a corner at Florida. And I was kind of like, no, he can play. And he wasn't fast enough to play NFL football.
Yeah.
We'll see. I would probably just
This'll
go,
be the
guys, there's a lot of
test.
tight ends in this draft. Go ahead and take his name off for me. Go ahead and set it over
Yeah.
there. Appreciate you.
Now, see, okay, here's our friend here asked about Cole Turner. Cole Turner from Nevada. Now, that's a good football player, man. But that's what I'm saying. This tight end group, if you take Weidemeyer, okay, that's at your own risk, but you know the tape. But man, there's a list of these tight ends that go down 4th, 5th round, and you're like, yeah, absolutely, let's take that guy. And Cole Turner from Nevada was one of those guys I kind of liked.
Justin Hewitt, how does this year's Alabama receivers compare to Alabama receivers from previous drafts? I would say not quite as well. Like when you're talking about, you had what? Waddle played with Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
Like that was cheat codes.
Yeah.
And Ridley played, gosh, I lose them all. Judy's in there, and
Jones.
Judy and Ruggs, although Ruggs is not going to play any more football.
Yeah.
I would say, relatively speaking, not great, but they're really good players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeff Heath is the GOAT asks, will a safety ever play up to the level of Jeff Heath? The answer to that is no, obviously.
Never.
Why aren't scouts talking about Neil Farrell, LSU, from Dro to Gooner?
See, now let me give you a little insight here, and please, folks, bear with me. I went to school there. I love LSU. It's, I love everything about it. But I will say this about Farrell. I don't think people are giving him nearly enough credit. And I've seen him play every game he could play. And here's a guy at 6'4". He's 330 pounds. He's got initial quickness. And the thing about him is he doesn't tire down as the game goes on. He actually gets stronger as the game. Now, they rotate their guys at LSU quite a bit, but I think that helped him a little bit, with the freshness of that. But he's not going to be a great pass rusher. He's just going to push the pocket, and he's just going to rely a lot on power and strength. And so we're kind of talking about, the guys at Georgia, maybe even when you talk about a Jordan Davis. This is kind of a Jordan Davis, but like a 4th, 5th round kind of guy. So if you're looking for it, and there's several of these guys, and by the way, the defensive line coach was up in Storrs, Connecticut today working out Travis Jones. So they're these guys like the Travis Jones that's 6'4", 225, Neil Farrell 6'4", 330, Jordan Davis 6'6", 341. There are some really, really good players. And there you go. Davis, Jones, Farrell. That's kind of how this thing is going to shake out. So it's not like you're going to have to go in there and say, oh, we're going to immediately have to grab one of these one techniques or nose. There's one in the first. There's probably one in the second. There's probably going to be a couple there in the 3rd or 4th round if you're interested in doing that.
Aaron Broom, does this team actually get better by drafting a round 1 wide receiver instead of a round 1 defender or offensive lineman? I don't think so. It just depends. Which one's the best player? If you pick the best player, you're going to end up making a good pick. If you don't pick the best player and you pick what you think you need and what is going to make your team better, because in your brain, you're going to create a player that's better than he actually is because he plays the position that you need, that's a bad idea. We're going to pick the best player in the 1st round, unless the best player is totally blocked from playing on your football team. Otherwise, you're going to look back at it 2 years later and go, what the hell did we do?
Yeah. Tony J talks about Ridgeway. Same guy, Arkansas. They're all right there, man. I mean, if you're looking for those push the pot. Now, the guy at Georgia clearly is the best one because you do get maybe still a little bit more pass rush from him. But all those guys are strong, and they all push the pocket, and they all play the run well. That's kind of where these one techniques are. And I think whoever guy you draft, Davis, somebody's going to be happy with Davis. Somebody's going to be happy with Ridgeway from Arkansas as well.
By the way, on your tight ends, I demand that every time tight ends are brought up that Jelani Woods gets mentioned.
There you go.
I'm picking him on day 3 because he tested as literally the most athletic tight end prospect of all time. And watching him play is like watching a giraffe play with horses or something.
Yeah.
He's just so big and awkwardly kind of coordinated.
I have a bone to pick with you. I really do. because all these people send me their mock drafts and they tag you in them. I don't see you comment about their mock drafts.
Yeah, I'm going to handle that on the back end. Yeah, I handle that on the back end. I take it under advisement.
Yeah, but see, I think the thing with Woods, I think a lot. I mean, every time people give me a mock draft, they've got him like in the 5th or 6th round, and I'm like,
let's go.
No, this guy he's not going to be there in the 5th or 6th round.
Let's go.
Don't do that.
Let's go. What are you talking about? I didn't think CeeDee Lamb would be available. You can't say that, Brian.
Don't do that. I'll tell you another one. Everybody's got the linebacker from Wisconsin in the 2nd round.
I keep taking him in the 4th.
3rd. The gang, everybody, all the scouts are telling me it's a 3rd round linebacker there, but everybody's got him too.
On film, I put him in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
And then stupid combine, I'm just like, maybe this guy can cover. Yeah. He's a great athlete. And so I just start projecting things onto him that I haven't seen on tape.
Watch the tape. He is a, yeah, you're right. That's right. Chenal, right?
Yeah. Leo Chenal.
Yeah. That's him. Absolutely. Yeah. So everybody's got every mock draft, second. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I kind of had him in that 3rd round, I think, I don't know about that.
My guy, Mr. Sunshine, who's watching on Twitch, I don't think there's enough awareness about the middle of the D-line and how the Cowboys lack versus run in the middle. They brought back Carlos Watkins today.
They did.
It's weird because they have the numbers already. If you go Gallimore, Odighizuwa, Tristan Hill, Carlos Watkins is back, Quentin Bohanna.
Yeah.
You have 5 D tackles. One of them is a true nose. Watkins kind of played that for you last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they feel pressured to take a big guy, but if your point is that I don't think our group of big guys is very good, I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong about that.
Nope.
Okay, one other thing I wanted to do with pro days, and I'm just going to toss this one to you, is a question that just got asked. Thoughts on Ojabo? Where may he go?
Yeah.
So David Ojabo, Michigan pass rusher, awesome athlete. Brian is learning the words ceiling and floor. David Ojabo, high ceiling guy, super athlete. What could he be? A lot. Blows out an Achilles, so he'll probably be redshirting for whoever drafts him.
Yeah.
So now instead of being picked in the top 20 or so, David Ojabo goes where? What do you do with that as a scout or front office guy?
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Cowboys, they'll tell you they'll put him where they'll give him his due. Didn't they do that with Jalen Smith? They had Jalen Smith's tag in the 2nd round, even though he probably wasn't going to play. I remember 2nd round guys like Bruce Carter, Sean. I mean, there's been a history of 2nd round guys that this team has taken, and they will figure out, like, okay, put him where you would take him. And if we get to our pick, and me personally, I kind of feel like a really, really good team. And again, the Cowboys, say what you want about the Cowboys. They're a playoff team, won 12 games. But if you're the Dallas Cowboys and you're so cap conscious about things, can you afford to take a 2nd round guy and redshirt him? I don't know. I mean, because if I'm taking a guard in the 1st round, I might need a wide receiver. I might need a defensive end. One of those linebackers might be there. I don't know if I'm taking a guy to redshirt and hope that things work out in 2023, because if you're thinking he's going to be like that running back from the Rams and come back and play, I really don't. I think these injuries are all different. And even then, 2023, look what we've done with Hooker. I mean, Hooker, coming off an Achilles, it's that 2nd year. So you're really now looking at potentially 2024, and you're talking about an Achilles with a guy who makes a living with his burst. And is that Achilles going to be where it needs to be to give you that burst for the position? Me personally, I'm not drafting him. I'm not. And I had a lot of questions about the kid, even at 24. He hadn't played a lot of football. There was just, he looked.
They hide him against the run.
He's raw, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I've got an injury to deal with. This kid needed to get drafted and play because the learning curve for him, I think, is pretty big. And now you're saying, oh, Bryan, 2023, he'll be ready to go. Well, that's a year removed from the Achilles, and he plays a position where he has to burst. I'm not taking that chance. I'm just sorry. I as a scout, I would say that in the meeting room. I would absolutely say that, because look what happened with the leg injury. I know it was different with the knee and all that with Jalen Smith, but he couldn't burst. He couldn't burst like he needed to, and I think that's an issue. I really, really do.
So my initial thought afterwards was, all right, well, now you might have a chance to pick in the second round a guy that probably wasn't going to make it to you in the first round. And my initial thought was, oh, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But then I had to kind of think about it practically. So, Bryan, just for fun, give me a random prediction of who the Cowboys are going to pick at 24. Just pick me a guy.
They're gonna take. Let's say they take Green, the guard from Texas A&M.
All right, now we get to the second round. David Ojabo made it to your second round pick, and you're like, sweet, got a first roundish player here available. He's not going to play the first year. Mm-hmm. But also on the board is, will you take David Ojabo or Georgia wide receiver George Pickens?
There you go. Yeah.
Will you take David Ojabo or UConn defensive tackle Travis Jones? Or, you can go through a bunch of different positions. And I think when you start putting names on that second pick, it makes me go, you know what? I would pass.
Yeah.
I would pass on him.
Yeah. I just think that he plays a position where his explosiveness is his calling card. And I'm not going to take, people are going to say, oh, the Achilles is fine. They fixed it and all that. But we've seen these Achilles injuries for the Cowboys. We've seen Barry Church and guys like that have Achilles injuries and come back. I think if I'm not mistaken, Greg Ellis had an Achilles injury. Tyrone Crawford, I know, had an Achilles injury. When you're talking about burst and defensive line, it just doesn't mix. It's just it's not a good way of doing business. And me personally, if you told me Green, a wide receiver, maybe even one of these linebacker, if you're telling me about one of those guys or one of these, a corner, I'm taking the guy that I think could go play right now. And I'm not waiting until 2024 to see if David Ojabo can help me. I need help right now in some of these areas.
Family for God says, I know this is draft talk, but send a couple picks over the next 2 years to Seattle for DK Metcalf, or keep picks and draft a wide receiver. All our wide receivers run the same speed. Like Seattle, I don't think Seattle's, I was gonna say they're not dumb. They draft dumb. They haven't drafted well lately.
No, my man John Snyder's done a bad job. He hadn't drafted
the guys that they might flip because this might be a little rebuild on the fly here. DK's not going to be one of them. Yeah. Like that's the guy that you're keeping. He's going to be the face. I don't think DK, like Tyler Lockett, he could get traded, but I don't think DK Metcalf is going to get moved. Ojabo to Philadelphia at 51. This is from Alex. Lots of rumors of Eagles being interested. You can sit him behind Graham to mentor, who also blew out his knee as a rookie in 2010. Yeah, that's fine.
No, they're looking for replacements. Brandon Graham is a guy they clearly talked about getting different players on that defensive line, and Brandon Graham was a guy that everybody kind of talked about. So yeah, if Philadelphia uses pick 51 on David Ojabo, yeah, good for them. My old boss Ron Wolf at the Packers used to say this all the time. He'd go, "Let somebody else be a hero."
Yeah.
Let somebody else. If it works out, great. We could all talk about it. And but history tells you that's a 2-year injury. That's a 2-year injury. It's not like, hey, we're going to have him ready for next year kind of thing. Yeah, you'll be ready, but the learning curve on that player is huge. I know he went to Michigan and he played in some game, but there's not a lot of football in his background. Not very much.
Hold on, I think I missed one. No, I didn't. Does the loss of Randy Gregory change Dallas in the draft as far as your opinions? Maybe a little bit, but I'm telling you, you have the guys to go play. And if you count Parsons playing 40 to 50% of his snaps on the edge, you might actually be good there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love looking at a starting lineup and seeing Dorrance Armstrong, but he did play pretty well last year.
He did a lot better than I thought he would. Dorrance Armstrong used to play really well one game and then be gone for 3. And I thought he was far more consistent with, and again, I wouldn't, I hated losing Randy, but I'm not freaking out about it because we'll see what happens with Armstrong. We'll see if Dan Quinn could do something with Fowler. The numbers came on that. If Fowler's not any good, you could just move on from him. No harm, no foul. Yeah. But if all of a sudden Dan Quinn once again finds magic like he did with these guys they brought in, the Curses and people like that, then, we'll be talking about this next year. Like, man, what a great job Dan Quinn did, of getting Fowler to get 6-7 sacks. That was the same number of what we just got from Randy Gregory.
Randy Gregory might be watching this, by the way. He DM'd me. He DM'd me yesterday to let me know he's subscribed to the channel.
Well, and like we said, I mean, Randy is, and good for him. I mean, seriously, we all love Randy. We really do. And, we're happy for him. But like I said, it's one of those things that now Dallas has to find a way to. Right. I'm sure if Randy texted in, he would tell you that, hey, Dorrance Armstrong's a pretty damn good player.
Sure.
He would probably say, hey, don't sleep on Dorrance. I'm sure he would probably say that.
Tim Winters, thoughts on Calvin Austin? We hate returners and he's small, but sneaky way to improve on an area we ignore. We like fair catchers too much. Calvin Austin is a Memphis wide receiver that is 5'7" and 170 pounds. I think there's a two-way battle in this draft between the tiny, explosive guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Calvin Austin at Memphis. It's Wan'Dale Robinson at Kentucky.
Yeah.
And Wan'Dale Robinson actually put up even more numbers, just bonkers numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I had him kind of similar, and I let the combine make my decision for me to put Calvin Austin ahead of Wan'Dale Robinson because it's almost your who was it, Ron Wolf? Who's the guy who talked about if you're tiny, you better walk on water?
Better walk on water. Jeff, 8 years of doing this with you. I'm glad you remembered that one.
Athletically, Calvin Austin walks on water, and Wan'Dale Robinson, at least the way that they measured it at the combine, does not. So I put the guy who walks on water a little higher, and I might have just off the tape gone the other way. But Calvin Austin,
I did. I went the other way, and again, both tags are right there. That round, I'm kind of thinking like, okay, where are all these smaller guys going? I think that Sky Moore, I think you've been on the Sky Moore train a lot longer than everybody else. I think you're going to be right about Sky Moore, but that's a 5'10" guy. That's a 5'10", 195-pound guy, So I get it.
That's not that small.
That's not that small.
That's kind of short for a receiver.
Yeah,
but it's not small and small. 5'7", 170 is small, but Calvin Austin can play.
Yeah. Robinson is 5'8", 178. Now we're talking short. When you start talking 5'8", that's a little bit shorter. But the thing that I like about Robinson from Kentucky, he catches the ball super easily. And I mean, this guy making plays all over the field. He's inside, he's outside. He could go higher for ball. I mean, I was surprised watching how high he could elevate for a ball at being a 5'8" guy. There was some hops. And when you watch him run, he just kind of bounces off guys, So you could use him in motion, throw him the ball. You can hand him the ball, but you could do the same damn thing with Austin too. I want to do a show one time of all the really short players because Marcus Jones from Houston is another 5'8" guy. And these 5'8" players, I'm telling you what, when we get back and start talking, when we're watching these games on Sunday, and you'll be like, oh my God, I remember Calvin Austin. Oh, I remember Robinson. Oh, I remember Marcus Jones. These short guys all make plays. They're all explosive players. And so, man, I used to be phobic about shorter guys, shorter players. Not anymore. Not the way these guys are playing nowadays.
I have a fun story. I have a scouting story for you, Brian.
All right.
I wasn't familiar with any Houston prospects when I watched Calvin Austin.
Okay.
And I'm watching Calvin Austin, and I'm like, man, this guy's a lot of fun. Like, he can do your gadget stuff. I think he, like Wan'Dale Robinson, plays bigger than he is. Like, I was surprised to figure out just how tiny he was, because I don't think he has a tiny catch radius. And I was like, man, this is a good player. I'm like, but boy, when he lines up outside there on the left, this jobber from Houston is covering this guy who can fly really well. I'm like, so I do a little note, which is what you do when you're watching a guy. I go, number 8, Houston. Like, who's out here covering my guy? And it's like, oh, by the way, that dude can play. But you don't know it when you're watching, and you're just like, oh crap, is my guy bad? Funny. My guy's struggling to get open on this jobber, and it's like, oh, not a jobber. Got it.
Not a jobber. No, that's the great thing about studying these players is as you blow through them, or not blow through them, as you get through them, you start to figure out, like, you look for matchups. You look for matchups. And if you want to watch Houston, Parham from Memphis, the guard, watch him play against Logan Hall, the 6'6" defensive tackle for Houston. And you'll see a guy play with leverage and not get walked back. And, those are the kinds of matchups every once in a while you get a guy going against another one that you're like, oh, man, I feel a little bit better about this guy. Well, I feel a little bit worse about this guy, kind of a thing. So
Jeremy Davis, who just said, what are your thoughts on Marcus Jones from Houston? He's small, but he could be your returner and play corner. We are a pro Marcus Jones show.
I might get his jersey wherever he goes.
He'll go to Baltimore. He's going to go to Baltimore.
Baltimore, exactly. This kid, I'll tell you this though, Jeff. And I don't know if you've seen him return. He's rare. He won the SMU game on a kickoff return. But you watch him when they punt him the ball and he catches it and he's running, and it's like he's just making people miss. It's just up, and you're like going, okay, he's short, he can cover, and he can help me in the return game. Bill Parcells, again, used to say, when I take you to the game, tell me the number of plays you could help me play. And Marcus Jones, I think, can help you play a lot of plays in a football game, being that guy.
Cy Henderson, what linemen in the draft have guard/tackle flex? We've talked about this before, and I've come around to where I think I hate the idea of position flex, because I think a lot of times people use it to convince themselves a guy can be on the roster. Like Connor McGovern's a right guard. They don't want him to play left guard. They don't want him to play center. He's a right guard. Terrence Steele is a right tackle. He can't play left tackle, at least not well, but he can play right tackle. The amount of guys who could honestly line up and play NFL football at guard and tackle and be functional/good at both is very, very low. But you go to this draft class, and like every year, there's going to be tackles in college. They're going to play guard in the NFL. There's like Kenyon Green could play tackle for you.
Yeah, he played left tackle. I think he played left tackle against Alabama. Did the game?
Played right tackle against Kent State. The dude played everywhere. I think he could, but is he an NFL tackle? I don't think so.
Probably not.
I think he's an NFL guard.
Yes.
Could you play Trevor Penning, the Northern Iowa offensive tackle? Could you play him at guard if you wanted to?
He's 6'7".
Yeah.
He's got a nasty demeanor, and he's very athletic. So
maybe he could play guard.
Maybe you wouldn't want to do that, but
right? Because tackle's more important. You mean?
Yeah.
But like, if you were in this situation,
let's say the
Cowboys. Let's say he makes it to 24.
Yeah.
Would you pick him and be like, "Look, you're going to play left guard until Tyron's time's up"?
I think Flozell Adams did it, and Flozell Adams is huge. I think Flozell Adams did it way back in the day. I don't know if you necessarily want to. To be honest with you, if I drafted Trevor Penning, I would put him over Terrence Steele at right tackle is what I would do.
That's probably true.
That's what I would do. I would just say, you know what, I'm just going to play at tackle. I think there's the guys, there's like, Munford from Ohio State is a guy that was a tackle, the guard. Saller is from Georgia.
He's a tackle in college that's going to be a guard.
Ryan from UCLA was a tackle, left tackle that played guard. I think there's guys like that. Jeff, I want to ask you about somebody. Have you, and I see this name a lot because it got thrown on a Mel Kiper mock draft. Have you seen Tyler Smith from Tulsa?
Yeah, I watched Tyler Smith yesterday.
Why I don't have Tyler Smith in the first round. I'm sorry. I don't even have Tyler Smith in the second round.
Oh, sounds like we have him in the same place then.
I got him in the third round. And I've actually got Balale, the Minnesota guy, Lucas, who I'm glad you saw from Washington State.
Yeah, I think he's better than Tyler Smith.
Yeah. And then Petit Ferry from Ohio State. That might be the level where this thing starts going a little crazy for me. But I did not see Tyler Smith as a first-round guy. And so I was thinking, did I miss something here?
I think if you are an offensive tackle that is not good in pass protection, there's no chance in hell I would take you in the first round. Like Tyler Smith, I understand, because like he looks like an offensive tackle.
Right.
He's built the way you want him to be built. And I think he's a good and powerful run blocker.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that fundamentally just being able to mirror and pass pro and land with your hands and keep your feet underneath you, I think there's a lot you got to develop there. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that is not a first-round player.
Yeah.
But I cheer for everybody, so I hope everyone gets picked number 1 overall. That's what I hope. King Shadow, after Georgia Pro Day, does Lewis Cine become safety 2A or 2B with Dax Hill? Or does Quay Walker maybe become 2A or 2B with Nakobe Dean, with Devin Lloyd being linebacker 1?
That's a good question because I really do like Cine. And I think this is a pretty good safety group. I haven't gone through all of them. Hamilton, Dax Hill in my first round. I think I like Brisker and Petrie better than Cine. I think,
but you've got them all pretty close, I bet.
Yeah, but like I say, Hamilton, Dax Hill 1, Brisker, Petrie, Cine in the second is how I kind of see that right now. But Cine, I mean, the thing about Cine, there was
he's a crazy person.
You go back and watch him play in the Florida-Georgia game, and he lit Kyle Pitts up. I mean,
he's an insane person. He does not care about his own body.
Yeah, and so that's kind of interesting about him. But I think I would go Brisker and Petrie from Baylor, Penn State Baylor over him right now.
I think so too, because I think I trust. Let me see the order I have it. I actually have it Brisker, Cine, Petrie. But like you could sell me on any order.
Okay.
I think I am more comfortable with Petrie and Brisker in coverage than I am with Cine.
Yeah.
So like Lewis Cine's strange because he has more range than either of them, I think.
Right.
Like he can run like the wind.
Right.
But he's not as consistently good a cover guy as they are.
Right.
Like he played at Georgia where you have 1 second to throw the ball against them. But man, that dude comes like he's a quote free safety.
Yeah.
But he comes downhill like he's a freaking linebacker, even though he's skinny. He's just like, yep, I'm here to break people.
Right.
So I like all those guys, and I could see them going in any order. I had another one, but I forgot what it was. Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker.
Yeah.
I would not be stunned. I would be mildly surprised. I would not be stunned if Quay Walker is the first Georgia linebacker drafted. Just because.
Nobody's liking our 5'11" 4 linebacker.
I love him. If the Cowboys take Nakobe Dean at 24, I will celebrate. I'll love it.
Yeah.
But I'm learning about this NFL thing. And this NFL thing, boy, they love them some 6'3", 240.
Yeah.
They love it. Yeah. And Nakobe Dean not testing probably means that Nakobe Dean runs a 4.6, 4.7.
Yeah.
And I thought he was faster than that. But he didn't work out at Pro Day. He didn't work out at Combine. He's 5'11".
Yeah.
I would not be stunned if an NFL team took Quay Walker before Nakobe Dean, but I also think they shouldn't.
Dallas could be looking at some players that have some deficiencies there at 24. They really could. Maybe with the exception of Chris Olave. I don't know. I mean, he has many deficiencies, but the guy at 24 could have some deficiencies for the Cowboys.
Chris Olave needs to eat more red meat and push some weight around.
Man, did you see any highlights of him and Wilson running routes today, Ohio State? Now, by the way, folks, Ohio State, the Woody Hayes Center, I'm just going to give you a little insight. If you saw some times of guys flying there, it's downhill. Like downhill. Like when you're a scout, you're like, oh, it's like I'm looking. Oh, you're kind of elevated at the end. So the Woody Hayes Center's got a little slant to it, but yeah,
Does Texas A&M work out uphill?
No, yeah,
every player there's 40 time was awful.
It was not good.
Awful.
Yeah, not good. I will say this though about Ohio State. It's good. It's a great visit, but the thing with Olave and Wilson, those guys running routes, holy geez, they look good. God, those two guys are smooth running routes. Wow.
Luke, what are Karlaftis's deficiencies? Athleticism and bend. If you run him on a 3-cone, I bet you he runs like a 7.3, 7.4.
You're not wrong.
NFL teams would love for you to run under 7 seconds. So
yeah,
I think for Karlaftis, it's his arm length isn't ideal. His athleticism isn't ideal. Yeah. He's just a hell of a good football player.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how maybe you get to 24 with a hell of a good defensive end. Mark, they need to give Josh Ball a chance at left tackle. We haven't seen anything from Josh Ball. The dude basically redshirted. What are you basing this on?
This is my hope that Josh Ball, like, it was not even a factor during the season, the redshirt. My hope is that when we see him at OTAs in minicamp, he doesn't look like a 307-pound tackle. I'm hoping that I see a 315 to 318-pound tackle and not a thin power forward looking body. If I go out there and I watch OTAs and he looks thin, and I'm going to say they wasted a year on him. They wasted because he needed to get stronger. It was very, very clear he wasn't strong enough. Even in the OTAs, mini camps, stuff like that, he has got to get stronger.
Well, and I hope he's a good person. So there's that.
There's some net questions about that too.
Are Georgia linebackers overrated because of Georgia's D-line? No, I don't think so. I think what happened at Georgia is that was maybe the best college football defense of all time. And now you know why. Because there's 8 dudes on that defense that can really freaking play.
Yeah.
Really play.
Yeah.
And that's how you become the best college football defense to ever take the field.
Jeff, have you looked at that Troy Anderson, the kid from Montana
I have.
State?
Troy Anderson is the other Brandon Smith. Brandon Smith at Penn State. I think that he looks like he was built in a lab to play linebacker. And when he's just running, you're like, oh, yeah. And he runs like he was built in a lab too. Yeah. And then you watch the whole play and you're like, oh, he has no idea what he's doing ever. Yeah. Troy Anderson is the version of that, except it's more understandable. Uh-huh. Well, I don't know Brandon Smith's history, but I know that Troy Anderson's a freaking quarterback, running back, linebacker.
Yeah.
So, like, he is learning what to do, but holy hell, he makes plays.
Yeah. The one thing I think he could really do is run. And so, again, this might be one of those times where somebody, like a really good team, picks him, like, late. And I'll applaud the team because, again, he did not look very good if you studied the North Dakota State game, that was a really bad. That was a championship game. That was really, really bad for him. But the other games like, Tennessee Martin, other games like that, he really showed up. And the one thing he can do is really, really run. And so I could see somebody taking him, working with him, maybe playing him at a couple different spots. At 6'4", 243 pounds, at least you got a frame and a body and an ability to kind of work with a little bit.
And Mike here mentioned another linebacker. How do you think the Cowboys view Muma coming from Wyoming, which at some point Brian will know exactly how they feel about it, and he'll tell us. But Chad Muma is a player, dude. I think Chad Muma is probably a second-round pick. I think Chad Muma is in the mix with guys like, where are my linebacker rankings? Right there with Christian Harris at Bama.
Uh-huh.
Right there with whoever you have behind Quay Walker. Muma, to me, is a top 5 linebacker in this draft.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's 6'3", 239. I mean, I just see a relentless guy. And I mean, when you think he's out of the play, he gets into the play. And I love his nose for the way, he sees play. I mean, I don't think he's going to wow you with like the athletic ability and the numbers and all. But I think there's some sneakiness to his game. And I think that when you talk about tackling, awareness, finish, all those things. I think Chad Muma is a player that he's going to go somewhere, and he's going to probably play a long time because he's got all those traits that you want. I mean, he went to school at Wyoming, and people are going to probably ding him for that. They shouldn't, but he can make plays from the linebacker spot.
Newman, my buddy, he says, Jeff, Warzone when you're off work. Didn't have a real question, but wanted to show some love. Thank you for the love.
Yeah.
I don't think so tonight. I haven't played a video game in a while, but I will get back to it at some point. And somebody else said, Jeff, will you release a big board soon? At JC, nope, that's not my Twitter handle anymore. At Time for Jeffrey on Twitter, I'll tweet out a link to it. I just have a Google Doc where I keep them, and I'd share the link. I don't care. People can see my work. I enjoy it. Miami 01 was the greatest with Taylor on the bench, Sherman. Yeah, maybe Georgia wasn't the best defense of all time, but they're in the conversation.
There's some good defenses.
They're in the conversation.
Florida State had some good defenses in the 90s. I know I saw a bunch of them. Yeah.
All right, Brian. Well, congratulations on finishing your 6-hour workday, and I'll see you in about 14 hours for the draft show on Cowboys.com.
Look forward to it. Thanks to everybody out there that loves us at Plug and Play. Hope you guys keep studying, man. Keep trying to learn. That's the best way to make it work.
We got another super chat. Hey, Brian, would Jesse Tuggle be a good comp for Nakobe Dean?
Wow, Jesse Tuggle, good short linebacker from the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Tuggle runs as well as Dean does. I think Dean is one of these guys that's shot out of a cannon. So, but Jesse Tuggle, man, good. I like what you're doing there, though. I really, really do.
And Blake wanted thoughts on Sam Williams. We talked about him earlier, Blake. Yeah. We're going to need you to hit the rewind and get on back there, but we like him as a second, third round guy. Yeah. Nice little edge player. Okay, that's it. The end. We're done. Thank you to everybody who is out there watching on Twitch and on YouTube. Thank you to those who are going to be listening to this later on Spotify or Anchor or Google or whatever. Remember, you can use the promo code JeffC at Underdog Fantasy for a sign-up bonus. And is there anything else? Thank you to those of you who are members on the YouTube page. It's right next to the subscribe button on the main page that are showing support that way. I love it and I appreciate it. And with that said, remember, you have no idea